Hey guys, so this is going to be a pick a pile reading. This is going to be pile 1, this is going to be pile 2 for an ancestors reading. So for the spirit guide readings that I do for my shop, I will include an ancestor, usually a celestial spirit guide, so you can take a look at my last spirit guide reading that I did, the other pick a pile one just before this one. And then usually an ancestor, often an animal guide, and a kind of divine spirit guide. And for this, the way I go about the ancestor spirit guide readings is for the ancestor portion of the readings, I look at what the cards are telling me in terms of a story about what kind of person your ancestor was, what kind of life they lived, and then I look to see what kind of advice they want to give to you. Now for those written readings that I do for this, I do put in extra effort to do some research on what would have happened during that time period and whatnot, and I leave like some resources and links for like some further understanding about who this ancestor may have been. I want to say that oftentimes I've had customers tell me, wow, yeah, no, that is my actual lineage, even though I'm not looking at their face. Obviously, they're buying it online and giving it to them as an email. And they'll say, yeah, that's my actual ancestral lineage. I don't know how you knew that. Other times, it's something like, oh, I've had dreams of being in that culture. So it might not even necessarily be one that is your actual bloodline, but this person is connected you to you in some way, either through literal familial ancestry in this lifetime, or you had some kind of relationship to them in a past life and they continue to be a spirit guide to you now. This is somebody who's an ancestor to your soul in some way. A lot of times when that happens, it's somebody's mother from a past life or something like that. That may or may not resonate with you. If you don't feel comfortable with something like that, this might not be the reading for you. But if you're curious about how that works, you can check this out. I will also note, usually when I do these readings, something that I can connect to an actual historical time period on Earth that is like historically verifiable will come through. It doesn't always. Rarely. It does happen sometimes that I'll get something that just looks like it does not belong on our timeline at all. Maybe it's an alternate reality or even a different plane of existence. I will sometimes get customers who identify with the starseed identity. Maybe that's not even the word I'm looking for, but it's just like that framework, that spiritual framework is, I guess, what I should say. Again, I'm very open-minded about that myself. I understand that not everybody feels comfortable with that. For all intents and purposes, I don't think that's what's going to be coming through today. I picked a deck that reminds me a lot of like European culture and then Latino culture. If that's neither one of your cultures, just pick whatever card deck calls out to you, because that may or may not be what actually comes through. I'm still going to look at the story of the cards. Yeah, so with all of that disclaimer and explanation out of the way, go ahead and pick whichever pile you feel called to, and I'm just going to dive right in. Okay. What ancestors want to come through for my viewers for pile 1? I'm already getting this sense of some kind of like priest or druid, although it could be the lovers down here, but let's see what wants to come through. Wow. Okay. I keep calling from the back of the... Interesting. Yeah. Okay. 7 of Wands. On the back we have the Ouroboros. I am seeing in this deck that you have somebody who was in a priest class. And I do want to say that for these types of readings, I get all sorts of people. I get jazz singers, bakers, people who were in the army, you know, different kinds of people who will come through as an ancestor for these sorts of readings. I do oftentimes, for people who are kind of regularly part of the spiritual community I've tried to cultivate, we'll get people like this, where you've had some kind of priest or other kind of relative. So obviously you're thinking, oh, well, priests wouldn't have had children, blah, blah, blah. No, but maybe their brother did. This could still be an ancestor of yours in some way, shape, or form. Because with Mott here, that's obviously not very, I'm seeing maybe even something kind of Greek, because obviously Celtic culture was influenced, especially in British Celtic culture, very much by the Greco-Romans. Gaulish Celtic culture was a hodgepodge of the cultures of the Celtic Isles and Roman culture. And I'm getting a very strong kind of vibe like that. Somebody who may have lived in some kind of castle, may have worked for a court. Seeing here something about maybe they even started their training in childhood. They might have had a very monastic life as a child, and then as they grew older, they started to get into more occult things. They may have officiated funeral rites and marriage rites. And they may have also just helped people work through, oh my gosh, right under that is the onion. So working through shedding external layers. So like Bacchanalian rites would have been things to like, would have been very purging and very ecstatic. And I'm seeing almost like a communion type of role as well. Somebody who helps people have a spiritual experience. If you were to translate this to like a Latino perspective, like maybe an ayahuasca ceremony or something like that, or a native perspective, somebody who helps people to have some kind of spiritual experience, as well as marriage and death rites. Maybe even rites of passage here, since I'm seeing like a child here, somebody who helps them, because different cultures have traditionally had rites of passage. You do some kind of trial or a walkabout or whatever it is that the culture does. This was somebody who had a very holy role in the community, who helped their community go through all sorts of different rites, communion, rites of passage, funerary and marital ceremonies. And I think they worked for a court as well. They may have been like an advisor who, for instance, if maybe they did astrology or some kind of divination to help a ruler predict the outcomes of war or make strategic decisions. They might have been one mouth on a council of other people who had, you know, maybe a more scientific or tactical approach. This person brought forward a divine guidance perspective. Okay, so let's just see what else wants to come through here. I went ahead and picked out some oracles that are a bit more Celtic in nature as well, because I figured that might come through. Yeah, here we go, Boudica. So this is somebody who oversaw for a ruler, tried to give wise counsel to somebody who may have had to make difficult, I might even just take that, might have had to make difficult decisions. Might have even been in a priestly position during a time of war. Yeah, we got the horse. That just kind of verifies for me nobility, fidelity, but also I'm seeing like potentially a war horse here. This is somebody who would have served as an advisor, as counsel during times of war. What else does this ancestor want people to know? Cauldron, abundance, prosperity, hidden riches. Yeah, so this is somebody who served their community in every possible way that they could. And on the back, we have the crone, wisdom, tolerance, roots. This may have been a woman. It may have been an older man. I do get that this person coming through has lived a full lifetime by the time they've reached this. This is an older person. We have like even like these shape of eyes and the clouds up here. Somebody who has very strong powers of divination. And just did everything they could to not only bring the spiritual rites of marriage and rites of passage, rites of some kind of communion with the divine, and funerary rites. He would have had to probably do a lot of, he or she would have had to do a lot of funerary rites if this is somebody who was active during a time of war. So it makes sense that this person would come through during a time where the veil is thin and you're dealing with a lot of ancestors, because if they've done a lot of rites of passage for different people who've passed over, they would have a lot to say about this. Okay, so I was not going to use these. I was going to use these for like clarification on who this was, but let's just see what wants to come through. These are past life cards, wisdom, okay, and vows. There you go. Let's see, what messages do you have for pile 1? What messages does this ancestor have for pile 1? Scribe or write, okay. Celtic, okay, yeah, I kind of figured it was Celtic. No kidding. They have different cultures in this deck, so let's see what else wants to come through. Yeah, so I'm getting like a Gaulish Celtic kind of thing. Asia, that is interesting. Is there any, might be worth looking up any historical time when, and it doesn't have to just be like China or Japan or anything like that. It could even be like Mongolian. I'm seeing obviously very Buddhist imagery here. So that would be India, China. But I'm getting the sense that if there was a way that Celtic peoples would have come in contact in any ancient civilization with Asian influence, I would say either that's from a very long stretch, long haul over a period of many years, influence from that culture, as we've seen like in anthropology, people say that Indo-European languages were probably influenced by India and others, especially if this is a Gaulish romantic culture, where there's a mix of Roman Empire and Celtic Empire, Celtic kingdoms rather, kind of coming through. We do see a Christian cross here with this sign. I think maybe this might have been a time where pagan and Roman influence was slowly turning over towards Christianity. So there may have been some influence from farther east from the Romans, or it could be through the Norse, because the Norse may have been influenced by the Mongolians and Siberians as well as the Russians to some extent, because they had a very vast exploring, raiding kind of empire of their own as well. So this is somebody who made contact with other peoples and was very vast in their knowledge for sure. For advice, since I pulled these as advice cards, I actually pulled these for advice cards as well, but this person is just wanting to talk about themselves and the life they had. I think maybe because the advice coming through is to learn from their life. Because a lot of times you'll have an ancestor come through who's watching over your life and is just going to say, hey, I see this going on for you. Here's some advice. But this person is saying, no, learn from my life. I've seen a lot of the cycles of life and death. And I think this person is asking you to do your own research. And something about music keeps coming forward for me. I'm seeing like a, because I'm thinking about how Celtic and Asian cultures share something in common in the monastic lifestyle in terms of chant and music, bells, gongs, and chanting. You might do some reading of scriptures from different cultures, the Tao Te Ching, the Upanishads, the Gitas, the Bible even, you know, the Norse sagas, whatever you can get your hands on. Do some reading, because there's a lot of hidden wisdom in those stories, if you know how to look. And maybe even do some journaling and writing. I'm seeing like, because there's a candle here as well, like a meditative kind of writing where you're just kind of dumping out everything on your mind and just getting it out of your system. Maybe releasing stuff that's on your mind and then filling it with knowledge. Releasing subconscious and emotional things through writing and then filling it up with knowledge afterwards to kind of help to balance you and really learn from the lives of people who came before you, because we don't have to agree with everything they felt and believed, Obviously, it was a different time. They would have been very different than us in certain ways, but we can still learn quite a lot from them. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this reading with some more advice cards from the Brigid Oracle. Fire for courage. What else wants to come through? Dandelion for illumination. Brigid's Cross for protection. Oak for fortitude. So, built her temple in a grove of towering oak trees. Close your eyes, visualize sitting with your back against a mighty oak. Allow yourself to sink into the trunk of the tree. The oak has a message for you. Stand tall and strong with fortitude against life's challenges. At the same time, learn from my great weakness, which is inflexibility. My branches break easily in a strong wind. Allow yourself to be strong and at the same time mutable, flexible, your strength. Yeah, I think that's probably part of the message that you're getting from this ancestor is learn from my wisdom, from my experiences, and also from the things that maybe went wrong in the past in my time. This is a person who I think served in a time of war. What can you learn from this person in terms of maybe de-escalation, de-escalating conflicts? Boudica was well known for bravely fighting against Roman invasion, Roman, frankly, tyranny in her time, but she made some hasty choices that turned out to not be strategically very good. She had some very victorious battles, but ultimately she lost, which is kind of tragic because it seemed like her heart was in the right place. Her people were really going through it. And I think it's interesting that Brigid's Cross is coming over that, because we see like this protective fortress in these eyes looking over, and then Boudica, who had failed. But she does have like this great chariot in front of her that's shielding her. I see that this ancestor is sending you protection in whatever conflicts you might be dealing with. If you're dealing with any kind of conflict in your life, this ancestor is protecting you. And asking you to learn from their mistakes in terms of, you know, be strong, have deep roots. But, and then you're getting fire here for courage as well. So this isn't about backing down and being walked all over. Boudica was right to stand up for herself and her people against the Roman Empire. It's just particular decisions she made in the process may have been a bit hasty. And maybe she would have won her cause if she had gone about things just slightly differently. So this is about having courage and at the same time having some flexibility. You are being protected in whatever decision you are making right now, though. In Ireland, Brigid's crosses are woven from spring reeds on Brigid's Day, February 1st. These crosses are hung above doorways to invoke her protection over home, hearth, and household. Call upon her today and ask for her protection over an aspect of your domestic life, your family and pets, the hearth or heart center of your home, the physical space and energies that reside there. Allow yourself to feel her blessing and protection. Also, with the seasons changing, we are in cold and flu season now. If you are somebody who is trying to get through sickness, or you're healing, or somebody you love is, there's a blessing called Brigid's Mantle, which is a blanket basically, and you call upon her. You put some salt water or smudging or whatever you do to cleanse it and bless it, and you call upon her to bless it as well. And usually this is often done on her day, on February 1st or somewhere near that time, but you can do it any time of the year if you're feeling sick already and you don't already have one. Felt like that might have been something that might be useful for somebody. Okay, then we have the dandelion for illumination. A humble weed, dandelion is one of her favorite healing herbs. Allow dandelion, an herb of the sun, to bring you the gift of illumination. Dandelion asks you to open your heart and ground your center. Allow yourself to be filled with a healing golden light. Focus on where in your life you can open, like a dandelion in the sun, to receive her gift of illumination. Allow it to fill your heart and soul. You are light. And I particularly honed in on opening your heart here and grounding. So having grounded rather than hasty decisions. And also, if you are in some kind of conflict, you obviously do not have to open your heart to somebody who is trying to hurt you deliberately for their own gain. Boudica was right to stand up against the Romans, for example. But maybe, for example, You see it oftentimes. Historically, you'll hear about a king or military captain having a bad disagreement with an advisor who was part of their council. This is somebody who would have given advice. And they could be kind of closed off to each other. One person thinks that they know what the right way is. These are people who are proud and they are elevated in their station. This is not a humble ancestor, but it may be humble now after having seen a whole bunch of lives lost and having gained a lot of wisdom from that. But I see this as being willing to have an open heart to people who are like on the same side as you in the grand scheme of things, but you might just have different ideas. Like say you're on the same work project together, or you're in the same family even, and you obviously, even family, you can have abusive dynamics, unfortunately. But if you're in a situation where you care about this person, they care about you, and there's not some kind of exploitation or abuse going on, but you're having a really bad conflict with this person, maybe it's time to try to ground yourself, let go of some of the pride, and humble yourself a bit and open your heart and open your mind even to what they have to say. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but just go about things in a way where your attitude is in a disposition of openness to allow them to have the opportunity to reflect you and be open as well. That can be very hard if you're feeling hurt or upset, or if you're feeling even just like your pride is being wounded, that your knowledge, your experience, your station, whatever is being disrespected. Try to be humble is what I'm seeing here. I think that this person may be saying that one of their mistakes in life was that they let their station get to them a bit, because they obviously did a lot of important things for their community. But maybe if not Boudica herself, somebody similar to her historically, and this person may have given advice that may have been sound advice, but maybe they didn't go about it in a way that would have been received well. Maybe they let themselves get into a bit of a pissing contest with somebody else who had some power, instead of sitting at a round table together and getting things done on equal terms and in a relaxed, respectful way. And that can be hard during times of crisis, but that's often the time when it's most important, right? To actually hunker down and be a good team. So yeah, and then we have for courage, call upon Regan, Lady of Fire, to receive the blessing of courage. Is coming right over the cauldron here. That's amazing. An area of your life exists where you need transformative power of the flame. Call upon her in her aspect of fire as you light a candle with this affirmation. Brigid, Lady of Fire, help me remember that the flame of spirit dances within me and gives me courage to face obstacles and embrace challenges. Allow the spark to ignite your strength and power. You are courage. So yeah, I would say so. This is definitely what I was talking about, being able to embrace these challenges instead of resisting, not having a bumping of heads moment, being willing to embrace that you might have disagreements with somebody, and embrace them as somebody you still care about anyway. We are in a time now in our culture, collectively on a global level, our globalized culture, our human culture. I know that there are differences between different nations and different peoples and even different local places, different states and towns, but there are also some broad similarities, especially with the advent of the internet. And one of those similarities is that across the board, people are getting more and more belligerent about certain beliefs that they have, and they are not handling their differences very well, especially not differences of opinion. Don't get sucked into that nonsense is some wisdom that I'm seeing here, because we have watched in times when people could not put their pride aside, people destroy each other and get at each other's throats, neighbors, families, friends. History is repeating itself right now, and we are at a crossroads of what are we going to decide, what kind of people we're going to be, not just in terms of morality and what our opinions are and where we stand on issues, although that is very important too. It's also a matter of how are we going to go about it. Do we think that the ends justify the means? Do we think it's okay to tear each other down to get what we want? What kind of people are we going to decide to be? I think that's a very important question. And I think that right now in Scorpio season, heading into Sagittarius season, we are being asked to go through these transformative alchemical fires and shed our old skin and be kind of reborn anew on a spiritual level, and be willing to embrace things in a way we might not have been taught how to by the people who came before us in our own families and communities. If stubbornness has been an intergenerational trait that has been passed down for some time. Just a moment, getting some water. Yeah, that is what I see here, because at the end of the day, in the cycles of life and death, what is most important to you? The people you love or being right? And there are definitely causes that are worth dying on that hill for, but be very wise in your deciding when and what that is. That is the advice that I see coming through for your ancestor here. All right, guys, thank you so much, Pile 1. You've been great. We have not been talking much through this video. It's a bit one-sided, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and I hope you have a great rest of your season going into December. Hi, Pile 2. I think I probably explained at the beginning. I'll just explain again in case I didn't before picking the pile for you. Just a little bit about how this works. Just like 2 minutes less. You may or may not get an ancestor who is of your blood relation. It may or may not be from our human timeline. Most likely it will be. This is the Santa Muerte Tarot. You might get some stuff about Latino culture in this. It might not be. We'll see what comes through. Pretty strong likelihood, though. I will also just say that I'm not going to have the opportunity to do a whole bunch of research on the history of it like I normally would in a written reading, but I'm going to do my best to make sense of it with the cards that come through, and you can do further research from there if you want to. This is a collective reading, so this may be an ancestor who applies to a lot of different people. I would not be surprised if, like in Pile 1, it's somebody like a grand priest who may have overseen a lot of people of a wider community. They may have just been a part of your community at some point in a past life, rather than being like a mother, brother, father, sister, or direct lineage of yours in some way through blood. This is somebody who may have been part of a greater community who is watching over you as an ancestor. Maybe it is somebody who is more directly related. We'll just see what wants to come through for this general reading. This is my first time doing an ancestor reading like this for like a specific ancestor and their story for a general reading. So we'll just dive right in now. Let's see what this ancestor has to say. Who wants to come through for Pile 2, the Hierophant? Oh my goodness. Check out Pile 1 because we also had a priest for that. Let's see what wants to come through. I'm getting a sense this might be another priest person. Who wants to come through for Pile 2? Yeah, I mean, interesting. And with the Hierophant in this deck, I was getting a sense of somebody who might have even worked as a judge. But yeah, this is somebody who, this is like a partying thing, this Three of Cups, and I think in a past reading I interpreted it as good friends, but for the sake of this, I was talking about a round table in the last reading. I'm seeing again, just intuitively, the first thing coming through was that this person was some kind of, on some kind of council, some kind of round table, some figure of importance. And then we have the Five of Pentacles on the back, literally walking on there's some feet over here. We tread the earth where our ancestors used to be, and we know of some burial grounds and whatnot, but some places we probably walk over the dead going back thousands of years without even realizing it. So something to keep in mind is this world, the very soil that we walk upon, is built on the ashes and bones of people who came before us, and to have some respect there. Do we have the tower here? That's an interesting looking tower because they're inside the tower here. That's fascinating. That is a trippy looking tower. I'm getting almost like, have you ever seen how, like in some like animated versions of this, and even the Tim Burton ones, Alice in Wonderland, her falling down the rabbit hole, and it's almost like a tower. There's like stairs, there's books flying, there's other things depending on how the animators decided to depict this. She'll like fall into a chair and whatnot. I'm getting a very topsy-turvy look like that. There's something kind of trippy going on with this. And these people do seem a little bit drunk, to be honest. I'm seeing this as somebody who pulled the sword out of their own throat and spoke up on behalf of something at some kind of council. Maybe even some kind of meeting that was a bit more celebratory and had something to say. I'm even getting, if you've ever read the Locasena, where Loki shows up to the dinner party of the gods and kind of has some words for them. And we do have this Six of Wands here. I think this is the Six of Wands. Six of Wands is like success in some other decks, but this is like reaping what you sow, harvest. I am seeing results here, reaping what you sow. Maybe something was not built on a very firm foundation that came crumbling down. Whether this was somebody who had a Hierophant-like role or a messenger role, maybe working for somebody who was a spiritual advisor or counsel. Right, because the Locasena is just a backup of like a reiteration of some of the things that were expressed during the Volspa. A sense of pointing out hypocrisy. This is somebody who spoke sacred truth, but it may have ended up in conflict and a tower falling down kind of moment. Right, this is somebody who experienced some kind of conflict and that did not end well. Let's see what else this person has to say. Let's see, what more can we learn about who this ancestor is for pile 2? Who is this ancestor for pile 2? Vows, wars and battles. There you go again. Communal living. So yeah, this is somebody who, like I was saying, was either a priest. They took some vows, maybe even a nun. I'm seeing it in a past life context that more likely than not a male probably would have taken this role. But it's possible this was a woman too. Might have been a woman and a man working together. Might have been a group of people. This might even be more than one ancestor coming through and kind of saying that they were part of something together. A woman, a man, and maybe like a younger messenger. So if you have the Hierophant and then this person being the messenger on behalf of some other people who I think were part of some kind of spiritual community. I'm getting almost like even a Trojan horse kind of vibe where, you know, people of Greece are very, in the historical context, you have a group of people who are very haughty almost, a little arrogant and assuming that they've won, that things have gone their way, that, you know, it's over, even if it's not over till it's over. You know, they're happy, they think that they've gotten what they wanted, and then surprise, there's a bit of a Trojan horse coming forward as some kind of retaliation against what I see may have been some bad decisions that were made. We even have like a British flag here. I'm getting almost like a Revolutionary War type of feeling here. This isn't a British flag, this is a, I think a colonial flag. Let's see what else wants to come forward here. One more thing about who this ancestor is. Wisdom. I think we have like a unicorn there. That's interesting. Right, so this is somebody who would have come out of a spiritual community, trees, deep roots. They would have known the mythology of the culture. They would have been very well versed, well educated. And they came to this group of people. I'm seeing almost like you have this group of people and this group of people. And I almost want to say, yeah, like that. And that's interesting. We get kind of two more ethereal, trippy things over here on this side. I see maybe somebody was fighting for a cause, for some kind of dream, but it ended up being very similar to the Ancestor in pile 1, but maybe just a little bit different. Maybe different cultural context, but very similar message. And I think they're coming through because of the times we're in, where people, I mean, we've had a war happen in Europe recently. The political landscape is getting very bad. I don't usually dive too much into what my own political opinions are in my tarot work, and I'm not going to get too much into detail right now. But when I see something that, you know, it's kind of like a see something, say something kind of thing, you'd have to be delusional not to recognize that we are in a pretty bad time socio-economically and politically right now in terms of people's ability to get along. Things have gotten worse. And I think it's going to require some wisdom and some reining ourselves in to prevent worse disasters than what we've seen with the pandemic and the recent war in Europe. I think there's a potential for things to get much worse. I find it interesting in this communal living thing that we're not seeing a picture of a existing monastery with monks walking around. We're seeing ruins. These are old ruins where nobody lives anymore. Things are toppling down and falling apart, just like in this tower card here. Yeah, I almost even feel like doing that. Because there's some connection here, but there's also a connection here. Let's see what they want to say for advice, because this is somebody, getting just a picture of who this person is. They worked in some kind of spiritual context. May have been maybe a messenger boy or girl, probably a boy, for a maybe a spiritual order that included some men and women, and they sent somebody to speak on their behalf to this council. And I'm getting that these people just didn't listen. They were haughty. They thought, no, we're winning, we're getting what we want. These are people of privilege in this situation. In a past reading, I saw this as just normal, humble, good people, good friends. It really depends on the context of the reading. Here, I'm seeing it as these were people who were not listening to this person and who allowed things to kind of become disordered to an excessive degree and for things to topple and fall apart. Let's see what else they have to say. What advice do you have for piracy? What advice do you have? Yeah. What advice do you have? What advice? Oh, wow. What advice do you have? Okay. A lot of... Yeah. And the rose, which is a symbol of love, the heart. I am seeing that this might be a call to be brave, but this is also just, I think, speaking of somebody who rushes into a conflict as well. Because we see a lot of peaceful cards surrounding it. The rose, the deer. The deer are very peaceful animals that are quick to, I'm even seeing moving on here, fleeing. You might even, if you're watching this, I don't know if I'm lucky enough to have anybody who is going through difficult times who finds solace in my videos, who comes from Ukraine or another place that's war-torn in the Middle East or anywhere like that. I know I've got some people from India who watch this, and you're dealing with some conflict of your own with the farmers' crisis and everything. But yeah, I am seeing, I mean, and this is not the only time in history that that sort of thing has happened, right? Maybe even some of these people were refugees, or if not, their advice to you is, if you feel like you're living like some kind of refugee right now, or if you're noticing this conflict and you're feeling like, I don't really want to be a part of this, of course, be brave and stand up for your beliefs. Do what you feel is right. There are some times in life where you cannot back down and you have to fight for yourself. You have to fight for what you believe in. I'm seeing a message of stability, though. This tree is not going to get knocked over the way this communal living kind of ruins in this tower are kind of falling to shambles. I'm seeing a tree that is upright, standing. It's got the number 10, so I'm thinking like the 10 of Pentacles in the tarot. Very firm and sturdy. And I'm seeing this as a message of saying, and even this woman, the chalupa, the woman in the canoe, she is carrying a whole bunch of goods with her, her abundance, probably to bring gifts somewhere. But in this context, I'm even seeing her kind of walking away from the tree, her roots. You might literally be changing location. If not location, you might just be withdrawing from some of the social arenas and excessive fighting. The way a deer will leave grazing its pasture to flee into the woods to hide somewhere from a hunter. And it's coming right over this unicorn, this very symbolic of innocence, and this horse here. And I talked earlier about the Trojan horse, so maybe even innocence in disguise. Be careful of who is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Be very careful of 4 and 5 together is 9, who might try to end your plans, who might try to bring difficulties to you. Be careful who you get into an argument with. Focus on your own abundance and your own family and your loved ones for a while. Focus on what's most important to you. Obviously stand up for what you believe in, but pick your battles. Choose when the time is right. Don't get involved in excessive conflict right now. The world is tearing itself apart. Don't take part in it, is kind of what I'm seeing as the advice here. Focus on building your sturdy foundations. The fight's going to get worse on the outside. If you're taking part of that, you're going to be too distracted from building the foundation you need to survive it and get through it and overcome it. So focus on you and your loved ones, your own stability, and don't focus too much on the fight right now. There will be a time and place for that. Don't get sucked up with these drunken lunatics, is what I'm seeing. Whether literally or just metaphorically, drunk on their own power trip or whatever it is that they're doing. Don't get sucked into that. Some further advice from this ancestor. Some final words of advice. Short illness. Yeah. So in the last one, we talked about somebody in pile 1. I was reminded of Brigid's mantle, which is a blessing for a blanket from some deity or spirit guide who can help you to recover from illness, and you can just reuse that blanket whenever you need to for when you're ill, to kind of give you some like spiritual healing on top of whatever medicine that you would need to take. Let's see. What else does this ancestor want to tell pile 2? Military person. There you go. What else does this person want to tell pile 2? High honors. Yeah. What does this person want to tell pile 2 about in terms of advice? Main person wants to tell in terms of it. Ooh. Didn't I say? Okay, I'm going to take that actually. Bereavement is on the back. So, court person. Didn't I say that? I think maybe this main person is like a speaker of some kind. Or like a woman who gave the honor of, I'm seeing like maybe some male judge, person who's involved with the justice system in some way in a past life or long ago. I find it interesting that this person's got like this little gnome whispering into his ear. I even maybe see this as being here. People who have a position of power taking bad advice, maybe even having the right mindset, the right intentions, but taking very mischievous advice. Don't take advice from fools. Don't take advice from people who aren't living the life that you want to be living, or who don't represent what you believe is important. Got like a tiny unicorn right here over top of this unicorn. I maybe even see, because a unicorn's mythological, I'm maybe even seeing that somebody's using flattery, false flattery, and that the truth is going to come out. False flattery, to whisper in somebody's ear, to goad somebody on to get involved in a fight. Don't listen to false flattery. Don't listen to somebody who's pretending to be a friend. Obviously, it is very important to hold your loved ones close. In pile 1, we were talking about you know, being open-hearted to people and not being stubborn in your viewpoint. This is almost the flip side of that, the opposite side of the same coin. You don't want to be so excessively closed-minded that you are unable to accept another person's viewpoint or opinion that's different from yours, even if they have the same hopes and dreams as you for peace, for good things, to work together on a project, whatever it is. For the same token, do not be taken for a fool. I'm seeing somebody here who is maybe be made to feel like they're being given a high honor, a high compliment, and some people will compliment you to your face and say absolute trash about you behind your back because they want to, because they're just manipulative. There are just some people who are like that in this world. They have a hidden agenda. And I'm seeing this main person here as maybe being a messenger, a more genuine messenger with the messenger bird here. We have these like little tricky, like fairy beings on the tree in here, but the bird's not listening to that. He's talking to the woman. And that message is coming on the wind to kind of overshadow whatever false messages are coming through over here. On a societal level, we are getting a lot of people who are sweet talking, right? Saying things like, oh, I care about this issue that you care about. I know this is so important to you. You are so brave and wonderful for caring about this issue. Vote for me, right? Or whatever it is, whatever, maybe not even having to do with electoral politics, but just this very tribalistic mentality of, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. I'm on your side. I think it's so brave that you have this opinion, you know, that you're not brave for having an opinion, okay? Well, no matter how important the issue is and how right you might be. You're not brave for having an opinion. You might not even necessarily be brave for speaking that opinion to a difficult crowd. There is some bravery in that, but are you going about it for the purpose of gratifying yourself and making yourself seem like, oh, I'm better than these other people? Or are you doing it because you really want to be heard and you think you can make a difference? That's the difference there about whether you're doing it in a way that's brave or not. And I'm seeing, because this is a person who's gentle and humble as well as giving a message, I'm seeing that the truth is often going to be a lot simpler, more soft-spoken, kinder, genuine, humble than whatever praise or instigating, appealing to your anger, whatever, maybe even your sense of fairness if you feel slighted, that can even get warped. So just be cautious about people speaking into your ear and turning you into something you're not by getting too hyper involved in things that maybe you don't need to be involved in to that degree. I'm not saying don't participate in elections, don't do this, that, the other thing. Do what you think is right. Vote the way you feel, follow your conscience. Everybody has to figure that out for themselves. The elections are already over for the United States here, but for the midterms, but wherever you are in the world, whether it's about political things, conflict in your company, a family conflict, community conflict, if you feel like you're being pulled into something through flattery, through inciting to your anger, inciting your sense of what's fair, have some discernment. because it might not be wrong. Maybe there is something that's unfair. Maybe there is something that you should be angry or upset about. Maybe you are being brave or wonderful, but are you being manipulated too in any way? Is there a hidden agenda? Don't let yourself be taken for a fool by people who are drunk on stupidity or rage or self-righteousness or power or whatever it is. You know, hold fast to your vows to yourself for what kind of person you want to be. That is the advice that I'm seeing here. All right, pile 2. I think that is everything that wants to come through for this reading. I am wishing you a beautiful rest of your November and into early December. I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.